Yo, it's your boy Uncle Pre with another episode of the Unfltered podcast. This week, I have Leah in the studio with me. She is the first British Asian English Channel swimmer. She's an author, a speaker, mindset, healing, motivation. She's the founder of Pop-Up Party Play.
Yes, correct.
And she reached out. She said, yo, I definitely want to jump on the podcast and get unfiltered. So we brought her into the studio today. How are you doing, lovely?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I've watched so many of your episodes and I'm like, let's do this.
Come on. Nah, I'm a big fan. I love the fact that you're the first British Asian English Channel swimmer. I think that stands out a lot because I feel like sometimes within the South Asian community, we don't necessarily give ourselves much credibility. We don't give ourselves much, like, if I look at sports as an example, like footballers, don't see many British Asian footballers out there as an example. So to know that you've gone and done something, like, I love swimming. Don't think I could ever do the channel, but like, yo, gang, respect.
Never say never.
No. Listen, I've watched too much like sea documentaries and films to make me think there's stuff in that water that I definitely don't want to get involved
The sharks and
all of yeah.
Okay.
Don't need any of that in my life right now. I used to love just like jumping off boats into like going like family holidays, diving off the boat.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, yeah, I don't really need to do that.
You're too in your head.
No, it's just that fear, right? Like getting all the way down, coming back up. What if something you're in someone else's territory?
Yeah.
I'm not about playing that game, unfortunately.
You got it. Yeah, that's one of the things I had to do. I had to train my mind because I started in the dark.
Yeah.
So for like 2 and a bit hours, it was pitch black. So I literally couldn't see further than my hand.
Yeah.
So those thoughts go around your head, but you have to control it because you can't be like thinking about the sharks, the potential sharks.
Just if something hits you accidentally, like, nah, fuck that. And like, I'm sure I read something in the news where like great whites were being seen
spotted.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, forget that.
I don't read the news about that kind of stuff because it would just scare me. But I was like battling jellyfish. I got stung really badly, like all the way up my arms, and like there was tentacle between my goggles and my face, and I had to rip it out. So I was like battling some crazy stuff, but yeah, not sharks.
And you have like a boat that goes with you as well, right?
Yeah, it's a safety boat, and my brother was on there, and my coach, and we had a crew and a referee and stuff, official. Fair. So yeah, they were on there.
That's quite mad. All right, we won't stick around with the swimming stuff too much because I know you want to get unfiltered about other topics. But by the introduction I've given, is there anything else that you want to spit on the mic right now?
No, I think you did a great introduction of what I'm about.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Fair play. So tell me. Well, let's just get real with it. What do you want to get unfiltered about today?
I think one of the topics that I like to talk on a more personal level is probably about setbacks.
Yeah.
I think so many people go through setbacks and failures and difficult times, and I speak a lot about the principles that I've like worked out that are successful to me to get out of those, but I don't know if I've always talked about the personal journey I've gone through and what I've experienced to get me to that point. So I think that's probably something that I feel that I want to talk about more, because the reason why I'm doing this, the biggest like driver for me was I want people not to feel alone. I want people to feel like they can look at me and be like, she gets me, because I think when I went through my hardest times, I struggled to find that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what's been your biggest setback in life then to date?
I don't know if it's one particular thing. I think I've gone through a number in my life, and at that time I felt like it was the most challenging thing I'd gone through.
Yeah.
So for example, when I was very young, I was diagnosed with severe dyslexia. So that was a challenging time for me. It was something where I didn't know what to navigate, and my mum in particular was a huge support during that period. She was a teacher and then did a master's in early special education. So I had a lot of support. So I think that was at school, if you're different, it's really challenging. So I think that was a huge setback for me, and navigating through like not being able to read and being like, how am I going to do anything in the world? Like I can't, it's a basic skill.
Yeah.
And I just felt very, very lost. I think that was probably my biggest thing when I was younger. And then through like my teens, I went through stuff that like a lot of confidence issues, and I was bullied quite a lot, which I've never really spoken about. So I think at that time it was very, very challenging. And then kind of like university and through into like my first kind of bit of education and like school, a university, first bit of grad scheme, like trying to navigate my ways of like where I'm going to be and who am I and my identity. And I think I looked around my peers and I always thought very differently. I think I was always kind of out of the box, challenging, and I think that led to kind of break down some friendships and how that all worked out. And then probably into my 20s was my own mental health journey. I suffered quite badly and what I went through during that. So in summary, those are kind of like the four main bits, I would say. But I think one in particular hasn't really stood out being like, that's the most challenging thing I've ever been through. Probably my mental health journey, but I think that's maybe because it's a bit raw and it's something that's so like, I've just gone through it. And you go through it your whole life. It's not something that you're like, yep, I've done this. So they're probably the key milestones, I would say.
Yeah, I've got it written down from like when we had that little introduction chat. You said your journey, you've gone through a lot of ups and downs, anxiety, depression. That's yeah. That's. I feel like a lot of people within our generation start to realize this kind of thing within their 20s, and it all stems from an earlier age. And until you like do the groundwork or you get vulnerable enough to actually say to yourself, yo, I don't want to continue living life like this right now. I need to do something about this because these episodes can't continue. This story of my life can't continue this way. Like, until you make that conscious change, you could be stuck in that battle for a while. Like some of my clients I work with in their late 30s, early 40s, and only realizing this now. And it's like, shit, you've gone through 30, 40 years of your life with this mindset. And you've normalized some of the things and you just made it so just natural. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And when you see them start to open up and you see them start to realize, yeah, I've been carrying this for so long. Shit, there's an alternative. Fuck, why haven't I never done this before? It's scary, and I appreciate the work you're doing outside. I know we haven't really gone into it, but in terms of trying to educate, help the younger generation no longer having to like fall down similar paths that we went down, I rate that a lot. But one thing you said to me was that you haven't talked about it in sufficient amount of detail, would be the fact that you were bullied a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
Can we get unfilled about that?
Yeah. I think at the time you just think it's a bit of joking around and it's like, oh, he's my mate and he's done this and done that. And my bullying actually stemmed from, it was the dyslexia side and stuff, but they actually didn't say too much about that. And also I went to a very like kind of traditional boarding school where I was the only brown person, and I didn't even it wasn't a racial bullying. My bullying was actually to do with the fact that I developed, like I went into puberty a lot earlier than everyone else, and I was starting to look different, and I was sexualized, and guys would make comments about the way I looked and how I was developing, and the tricks of like, oh, put your elbows behind your back, and like I bet you can, like 90% of the population can't put your elbows behind your back if you like try and reach around. But like I got to the point where they asked me so many times that like I was like double jointed and I now can put my elbows behind my back because I wanted to prove to them. So I think that was probably like the biggest thing, that. And the second thing was the fact that I was quite outspoken. And I do what I do now because I like to speak, I like to articulate myself, I like to help, I like to serve, I have an opinion on things. And as an Asian woman who is supposed to sit there and smile and nod, was a thing that like in the community was frowned upon, but also at school. As like a traditional English boarding school, it was a very male dominated environment. If we spoke out in class, they would like take the mick out of you and they would like take the piss out of what you said and the way you talk. So your confidence on the physical aspect, but as a personal attribute, is also being targeted. So yeah.
And when did you start to realize, shit, I went through that and it's not fair? But what I mean by that is that, like, I know people right now who were bullied. I, to some degree, used to have comments made about myself when I was younger, and it all seemed fun and games. But when you try and deep it, there is a very, very strong indicator that that wasn't fine. And if you were the father of you back then, or an older brother, you would have stepped in and reassured that version of you, yo, don't settle for that, don't tolerate that. You're perfectly fine the way you are. You would have encouraged that young boy not to have gone through that. I can only say that within the last 3-4 years have I been able to pick up on that kind of stuff. When did you start realizing that?
So I think there's two bits to that. One, I think this is why I speak about this so much in terms of like self-love and confidence on my own socials and when I go out and talk at schools, because it's a journey I'm still going through. Like, I couldn't truthfully say here and be honest with you, hand on heart, say I love everything about myself. There's still times where I'm like, I don't like this about myself. I don't like the way that I talk. I don't like the fact that I'm so loud. There's still things that come into my mind. So that's an ongoing journey. And I don't know, I see it a little more in my women like followers than I do in my male. And I think maybe, I don't know if there's a disparity between the two. I think women just tend to talk more about it than men do. But I think that journey of like being okay with yourself when you've gone through bullying is something that you'll do your whole life. So I think that's a journey that I'm still going on. And two, in terms of it's okay, I think that was something that I learned in my late 20s. That I realized that this is not okay behavior and that it's not acceptable. But with the way I think about things, and I'm quite a spiritual person, I do believe I should have gone through that. I felt like that was my karmic journey, and I felt like I needed to go through that to be able to relate to the people I'm talking to now, to speak about the topics from a personal point of view, which is why this podcast for me is so important, because truthfully, it's the first time I'm coming out and being like, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And I appreciate the fact that you can own the fact that you're not fully healed. It's still a journey, and there may still be ups and downs, but you're putting in the work to figure that stuff out and trying to educate on the way as well. You know, it's scary when you have people who have gone through challenges in their early childhood where they were targeted for whatever reason and don't do anything about it, realize it, and still, for better terms, play the victim card. You know, and they just feel like they're not good enough and they are meant to be treated that way, and they don't do anything about it. And in certain relationships they then find themselves in, they bug out, they play a different role completely because they're on the defensive, or for whatever reason they just feel like they need to prove themselves in certain environments versus other environments. It's mad. I've always like tried to transition myself personally when I'm in the work environment to be myself versus having to be someone else. And it's weird, like I've had comments of people saying you seem quite chilled and relaxed, and I'm like, no, I'm just being pretty. That's just the honest truth. Like, you're not going to get someone who's trying to pretend to be someone else right now. I can be myself in every environment, and I don't need to like change up the way I speak, the way I look, how I approach a situation. Like, you're still getting the same output regardless.
But do you know how raw and vulnerable that is, and how so many people strive for that? Like, that is very, very rare. Like, I don't see that very often. And I don't know if you've heard of Brene Brown, and she talks about the power of vulnerability, right? And she says that you come up as yourself. And one of the teachings she said is that if you're in a social situation and you go in and you're pretending to be someone and you get rejected from the group, fine, you're upset on two folds. You're unauthentic, and you're also upset because you got rejected. But if you go in there authentically and you're still rejected, at least you're true to who you are. But the amount of people that do that is a 1%er. They try and mold. And there are times where, like, in the last, even now, in the last like 18 months, I've been like, oh, I'm trying to be someone I'm not in this situation. And I catch myself doing it. So to be able to like hand on heart say I do this as an individual is really inspiring.
No, it's I think what you said is quite funny, because I had this session with a client of mine yesterday, and we're talking about like interviews and stuff. And I pinpointed it out that you're not being yourself right now. Like, I can,
love that.
I'm just having a normal interview prep session with you. We've never done it before, but let's give it a go. And I'm trying to challenge you to tell me the importance of why you want this role, etc., and bring your personality out.
Yeah.
You're giving me a corporate answer. You're giving me a structured answer. And I'm like, you're not being you. Now, if this doesn't work out for you, the story we're going to get told again is that you try to follow a script and it hasn't worked out again. Every single time you've applied for a job, have you incorporated being yourself in this? Answer usually being no, or sometimes I do. And I'm like, make it make sense.
Yeah.
You get upset when you get rejected. The fact of the matter is that, like, there are 10 candidates going into this role right now.
Yeah.
They all can read the job title. They all got a bunch of experience. They're all going to be different to you. It's fine. What's going to define someone different to you for this role? Like, what's going to make them stand out is just being authentically themselves. Yeah. Now, if someone says to you, look, we don't think you're the right fit because you're too bubbly or you're very loud, etc., that's you being you. You can't change that. If someone doesn't appreciate you for who you are, regardless of whether or not you have the skills, etc., it's irrelevant. Now, I've always said to myself when I've gone into like job interviews, I'm being me. I'll put my hands up saying, sorry, I don't know what you're saying right now. Apologies if my English isn't great. I will genuinely authentically be myself in that place, and I'll try and make them laugh and smile, etc. That's just me.
Yeah.
If you don't like me for who I am, that's fine, because if you hire me and I'm just being me and we're not getting along, there's going to be a problem. So we're better off finding that out right now, right?
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting, like that conversation we had yesterday, getting them to understand that you can't be upset with yourself if things don't go right if you are authentically yourself.
Yeah.
Versus trying to be someone else and possibly getting rejected.
Yeah.
It just hurts.
Yeah.
Like, I could never be upset if someone rejected me for me being me.
Yeah.
That's a you problem. That's not a me problem.
But can I ask you a question?
Go on.
Growing up, how often are we told to authentically be ourselves? We are told to wear a particular uniform. We are told to study a particular subject. We're told to partake in particular sports. And within the Asian community, that is 10 times folded.
Yeah.
It's, you've got to do a certain degree. You've got to act in a particular way. You've got to get married at a certain time.
Yeah.
You've got to... That is our whole childhood. We have been told to fit in a particular box.
Yeah.
So when you're turning around and saying, be authentic... truthfully, until about 18 months ago, I don't know who Leah is.
Yeah.
So you're asking me a question to be like, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I am loud. Maybe I am bubbly. Maybe I'm an extrovert. But actually, do you know what? What I've realised in the last 18 months, 2 years, is that I'm a massive introvert too. Yeah. I recharge internally, like when I'm alone. So when someone asks you that when you're in a journey where you've never had that autonomy, it's such a far-fetched idea.
Oh, 100%. I get that. But I also try and pinpoint out where they have been themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when you're doing your dance rehearsals, etc., you don't care about anything. I'm a big golf. I'm well invested into my golf. When I'm on the golf course, like, nothing else matters. I don't think about podcasts. I don't think about coaching. I'm just in my element. I'm enjoying myself. Whether I'm having a shit round or not, I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah.
When I play football, nothing matters. When I'm in the gym, nothing matters. And so I can authentically be myself in those scenarios. Why can't I translate that into other environments?
Love that.
And when I started realizing this, it came across as a bit like what you said. Within our community, we're structured to be in this box, go down this degree choice and go down this career path, and this is when you should have kids for, get married for, etc., etc. When you start breaking that mold and realizing that you're not being you in that environment, or not being you authentically all the time, you start to realize that your life isn't as fulfilled as you would like it to really be. You're possibly living someone else's life by doing that.
Yeah.
And I quickly said to myself, I could continue this way, but I'm not happy. And I am very quick and aware that something's missing. I'm not fulfilled. Like, you can pay me a lot more money if you want to, but I'm shrugging my shoulders at when people say to me, how's work? Yeah, it's all right. I don't want to feel like that. How's your relationship? Yeah, it's okay. Like, I want to be buzzing. I want to be just screaming to the world, I am in a great position right now. I want to be saying to the world, I'm struggling, but I'm doing something I love. And it's very rare for us to start saying things like that, because we are molded into this field. But it's like, as soon as you pull people out of it and start getting people realizing that everything you've been doing is nurturing you in a way where it's not getting you anywhere closer to being fulfilled versus this alternative, which could start to. Once your eyes open and the penny drops, it makes a big difference. And hence why, like, I think my last 2 jobs I've gone into, even when I was working in audit, like, I always tried to be myself. People always used to say to me that when you're in an accounting role, you should be working like late hours, etc. I never really worked past 5:30. And they always said to me, like, why? Like, how have you got away with that? I'm like, well, I always ask the question, do I need to be here? And if my manager has said to me, nah, it's fine, you can do it tomorrow. What am I waiting for? I've got a life to live outside of this. And it's just being vulnerable and asking that question. If someone says, no, we need it by tonight. All right, okay, cool. I'm a team player. That's also part of me. So I'm more than happy to help out.
Yeah.
But if I'm not required, no, listen, I've got grandparents to go and see. I've got a gym to go to. I had a girlfriend at the time I've got to spend time with. Like, whatever it is. I've got FIFA I've got to play tonight. There's things I've got to do, right? You know? There are so many things you want to, like, incorporate into your life. And if you feel like you're going to be stuck in this box, you're never really going to branch out.
I think what I kind of hear from you is that your own internal voice is quite loud and you can listen to it. I think maybe my story is that, especially with my confidence getting knocked, and I looked externally for that voice that needed to tell me what to do. And I think, again, I see this in a lot of women, like my parents will tell me, or my in-laws will tell me, or this person will tell me, or my community tell me how to act.
Yeah.
So when you don't have that confidence, you then look to other people to know how to act in a situation. So I think the lack of confidence, and when fear comes up and being like, I can't leave my job because I've got a mortgage, or I've got children, or I can't get into that relationship, or I have to get married to that man, or have to get married to that woman because I'm being told in this moment I'm 25 and I've got to do it. When that fear comes up and the lack of confidence, it's paralyzing at times.
The interesting part is, let's say, for instance, right now you had a young daughter. What would you tell your young daughter?
My daughter is going to have we're doing affirmations. You are going to be there. Any woman, like, the funniest thing is that I tell my partner this all the time. I say to him, my biggest reason why I'm healing, the biggest reason why I'm going on this journey is because I want to be the best person for me with no baggage, no crap, so that when I go and nurture my daughter or son, my son's going to have as much confidence as my daughter. I'm going to come from the best possible place and the most healed version of me. And that those children are going to do their affirmations in their morning. I'm going to ask them, like, they are going to be so clear about their voice and who they want to be and what lights them up. And I don't mind if it's against me. And I also, one of the biggest things that I'm going to be able to do is say sorry, because I am human. And even if I'm a parent, and I think in the Asian community in particular, that generational thing of being like, I'm wrong, like as a grandparent or like whatever it is, you'll never hear them say that because they're not wrong, right? But also we're human.
Yeah.
And my children, 100%, I agree with you, are going to be they're going to know their voice truer to the point where they're going to challenge me because they're going to know their voice so much, and I'm going to be so ready for it.
And so what you said there is you're going to give them that platform to be their own version of themselves as well, right? You're going to allow them to make their own decisions and experiment and just go about life in a way where what possibly you may or may not have had growing up or within the community that you grew up in, you're going to make sure that's very different for them, right? So when you say to me right now, Prue, you have an inner voice and you can believe in yourself to like just be authentically yourself. You're also telling me right now that you would hands down do it for your daughter or your son, but why can't you start doing that for yourself then? Because it's the same thing.
Yeah. I think there is, I would say 60 to 70% of my life, I do definitely do it. But I also think that the idea of listening to your voice is a lot more complicated when you've gone through shit in your life.
For sure.
And you're still working out. You're still like, sometimes I envision it as like a ball of cotton, you know, before when you're stitching and it's like all messed up and everything's just there and you're still trying to unpack it and unravel it. And you're getting there day by day. I think also a big thing about my healing journey and when I give grace to other individuals is be kind to yourself. If you've gone through crap for the last 25 years of your life and you're starting your journey at 25, you're starting your journey at 55 or even 60, you've got to unlearn years
Yep.
and years and years of work. So I think, also just be kind on that journey. But I agree, like it's a process.
It is a
And
process.
it's, for me, it's in the decision making.
Yeah.
It's in that moment of when you make a decision is when you choose you or you choose someone else.
Yeah, and exactly that. And a lot of the time, people don't choose themselves. They choose everyone else, and it's the people pleasing aspect of it, or the feeling that I can't do this for me because what will everyone say? And it's a case of, well, stop worrying about what everyone else will say and start thinking about what's going to serve you.
Yeah. So can I tell you something that's like a concept in the Indian community?
Go for it, yeah.
That when women or men, when someone cooks a meal and they do a massive feast, everyone eats. Who's the last person to eat? Generally.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Tends to be the tends
okay,
to be the cook.
okay,
I don't know if it's a man. Like in my household, like my uncles are really good cooks. So it's whoever the cook is tends to be the last person, which is something that shows you in our culture. It is fantasized. It is a goal to be achieved. It is a dream to have that you serve outside of yourself before you serve yourself. And it is selfish if I cooked a meal and I sit down and eat my dal and rice. So if that concept is happening within our community, can you understand from like anyone, I can understand when someone comes up to me and says, well, it's selfish for self-love or to put yourself first when you're sitting down at a table and you're the last person to feed yourself.
Well, I think the angle from that is, and this is the interesting part, if I'm cooking for everyone, the purpose to... You've got to look at your mindset differently in terms of like, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're serving everyone else first and then you go last, fine. But if you're doing it from a place where you feel you love yourself internally, that it doesn't matter when you eat, that's a very, very different story, right? And so like I always try and say it like from a coaching perspective, well, people like Pri, you're coaching all of these clients. You're staying late up at night to do all of this stuff to like help them. What about your sleep? What about your health? What about your routine?
100%.
I'm like, I'm choosing to do this because it fills me with an element of joy that I'm able to help someone possibly go to sleep the next day and wake up the next morning with a smile on their face. I'm able to offer some time for someone to get really emotional about something so that they don't necessarily have to carry that on for the next week. And so I don't like saying I get personal satisfaction from it, but it's an internal warming feeling I get from providing the service I provide. I don't do this to please everyone else. I don't care if I'm going to upset you in the coaching session. Part of me does care, but I don't truly care. Like the aim of this right now is to help you grow, right?
Yeah.
If this is part of the process, sweet. If I have to stay up an extra hour, if I've got to continue our session, what about your time, Brie? Isn't it valuable? Yeah, it is, but I'm choosing to do this versus feeling like I have to do it. And I feel like that's the big difference within our community because everyone I speak to, I wouldn't say our community, I think in general, people love people pleasing to some degree, but they people please from a position where they don't love themselves.
They're not full.
If I tell my clients this all the time, if I'm not mentally stable, if I'm ill, if I've had a bad day, I can't coach you, unfortunately. So I may have to reschedule. I'll offer you some extra time, or like, I'm super sorry that I'm not gonna be able to do it, but I'm just not in the right space. And my clients will ever come and tell me like, Brie, that's totally fine. You know, honestly, let's just do it next week. Enjoy your Christmas break, or if you're grieving right now, it's totally fine. We can take as long as you need. So if my clients can do that for me, like I understand it, like I can take breaks and I'm putting myself first before actually having to please people.
Yeah.
What I feel happens a lot of the time within, let's say, our generation is, I'm feeling shit, but I'm still just going to turn up and just help you out. That doesn't have to happen. And so, you know, you talk about like what you do at schools and you speak at these events. One of the things I really want to get involved in is going to schools within my area that I live in and just reiterating that it's okay that things aren't okay at home. You don't have to keep going through this stuff. Like, you don't need to put on a brave face right now. Like, if you're upset, it's fine. You can let people know.
Yeah.
If you don't want to study today, there's a reason why. Something's going on. It makes sense.
Yeah.
How am I meant to study if I know mum and dad have got bills to pay, or they're arguing, or like, but no one really deeps that kind of stuff, and we just have to put a brave face and just get on with it, and you carry on that through life. You just have to just keep typing at your keyboard or whatever thing you're performing, and it's like, That shit ain't fair.
Yeah, I know. And I think that's why I talk so much on my socials about filling up your own cup.
Yeah.
Because it's so important. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. Like, you just can't. And I think one thing that I like value so much in my partner is that he's a psychotherapist, he's a coach. He gives a lot in his, similar to you,
Yeah.
in his day-to-day life. He will help and serve, but he is so clear about his boundaries, even with us as a relationship, to be like, this is where I need to fill myself up. And it's actually taught me that I need to do it to myself as well.
Yeah.
And it's so invaluable, because you can't keep giving. And it's fine if you sit last at the dinner table because you're coming from a place of love, but make sure that you're going and doing something that fills up your cup at the same time.
Yeah.
And it has to come in hand in hand. You can't neglect either side.
You need to find that balance. Like, it's so bad, and maybe I need to work on my organization skills to some degree, where I will record a podcast in it. I know it's going to take, I've got a backlog of episodes that need to come out. So this won't be released for like another month or so. But there's no reason why I can't edit it on the weekends. But a bit like what you said, my time on the weekends I look forward to, currently while working a full-time job, is to go and play golf for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And watch the football.
Yeah.
And possibly just unwind. Like on Sunday I went for a massage because I needed it. My body was aching. And it's like, if you don't fill your cup with that time to recharge, how can you go out and still serve?
So if I give you a scenario, so let's say you're doing that at the weekend, and then you had a friend or someone in your life that was coming up to you and being like, why are you overindulging? Like, why do you need to do that for yourself? Like, what, like, so like, why do you need to do that? Like, it's so like extra. Like, why do you need to play 4 hours of golf? Like, can you not just go to the driving range for an hour? Or like, do you really need that massage? Like, oh, you're where your finances at the moment. Like, what would you do when you are getting that backlash in terms of that stuff?
I get it a few times. Like, it was like some family members and friends just don't understand. Like, they don't understand why I can't stay out on a Friday night, or why I choose to drive.
Yeah.
I'll be up early morning to play golf, right? Before, and this is where, like, say the self-love and the self-worth comes into play, because before I'd have to try and defend myself, like the reason why I'm doing all of these things. And nowadays it's a case of, you may not understand, but 4 hours of playing golf right now, I could go drive a range, yeah, but it's not the same in terms of the enjoyment I get. I'm playing with a stranger tomorrow, 70-year-old man, don't know him. I'm going to play with him tomorrow. We're going to have a great conversation, and I'm going there to work on my game, but to build relationships and just to be outdoors. It's my therapy. I can't explain it in other terms. It's my joy. The reason why I'm getting a massage right now is because I've gone through so many injuries. I love the gym. If I pull a back muscle and I'm like, it feels like I'm slightly paralyzed for a couple of days, I can't do that to myself.
Yeah.
And so I have to put myself first, and I have to pay this money for. I can get a cheaper massage. I could buy a machine and just do it for myself, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And I'm choosing to put myself up here first for a change, versus them putting it down here and just going about it in a way.
Half-hearted.
Yeah. And so, like, if someone tries to challenge me on that, I think before I would get very defensive. Now it's a case of, you may not understand, and that's totally fine. You're not meant to.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing, like, when I talk about it, is that you, one, have to have your boundaries in place and be like, truly believe in your heart of hearts that this golf game is making a difference to my life. So I'm willing to say no to you on a Friday night because I know it's going to be. So coming with that place from a place of conviction and being like, this, the way that you just articulated to me now, I'm like, yeah, do you know what? Actually, do you want to stop this podcast? Do you want to go for a golf round now? Like, you're coming from a place of pure conviction.
Yeah.
But if the conviction turns into hostility or argumentation, it's okay to put that boundary and be like, do you know what? I'm okay with the fact that you don't understand it. I'm not asking you to accept my life.
Yeah.
But you've got to understand that this is something I'm doing for me.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to do it to you, because 99.9% of the time, the individuals that are coming up to you and challenging you are the ones that are not filling up their own cup and are jealous of the fact that you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, no, I think that's bang on. There's an element of jealousy. There's an element of they don't have an outlet to be able to do something else. They don't know what to do. And it's like, do you want to tag along? Do you want to play? Like, I want to sleep. And I said, maybe that's your cup being filled up right now. And it's staying up at, like, on a Friday night till around 2 a.m, getting pissed up, sleeping through Saturday. And maybe that's for you, and that's fine. There's no right or wrong answer in how we live our lives. Me personally, if I wake up early and I can play 4 hours, be done by midday, I've got the whole afternoon to kind of do what I like, whether that's life, admin, housework, watching the football. It's just how I want to structure my Saturdays, unfortunately. And I also know, like, this kind of time is slightly limited in regards to the freedom I have right now. Once I get settled down and I have children, that might become a new priority in my life. So I might not have this joy of freedom, but in all honesty, if I want to try and find it, there are other ways and you can try and implement that in, right? So,
But I also think by that point, because you've practiced self-love so well, you'll microbite it.
yeah.
So instead of a 4-hour session, you could then do something that you know that lights you up in 15
Yeah.
minutes.
Take my kids to play golf.
Yeah. Yeah, there you
Watch
go.
them play.
Yeah. You never know. You'll
That's
find
it.
your way. I'm telling you. If it's a priority for you and your partner, you'll find a way.
And that's the thing. I feel like we don't allow ourselves to prioritize ourselves first in any of these scenarios and situations. I had someone say to me, I had to be up at 6 a.m. to do something religious, etc. I'm like, why? Explain to me why. Are you that bothered and invested about it? No, I just felt like I had to. It's a family cultural thing. They just said you have to do it. My aunt said this. I'm like, you can say no. Yeah, no, I can't. Who says you can't? You can say no. You can say you don't want to do that. Why are you being so difficult with yourself right now to put yourself first? And
Yeah.
it's just very interesting the way that I think communities and generations have been built up with the mindset that you have to follow what other people kind of tell you to do. But if you're not in the right frame of mind, if you don't really feel you're going to be your best self in that environment, why are you putting yourself through?
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's at the expense of your own happiness. And it's like, why are we here? Like, what's going on here? Yeah.
It's a bit of a joke, and that's kind of the things that I try and help people realize, that your life can be fulfilled in so many different ways. You don't have to follow a book or a script. But half the time, what you're trying to do right now, the majority of my clients who try and work on, like, say, dating and relationships, you're not just trying to find a partner. Why? To tick a box. Really and truly, what you want to do right now is obtain your own personal validation that it's okay that you're not there right now.
Yeah.
And that things aren't going the way to plan, but you also hate your job and you'd love to go travel and go to Asia for like 4 or 5 months, or you'd want to do a different job completely, where it's quitting work, this corporate lifestyle, and going to work in a school or doing some sort of charity work. But you can't do any of these things right now that possibly could fill you with the utmost joy because of what people have made you feel you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
There is always a choice. And when people say, oh, no, I have to do this, no, you don't.
Yeah. And that's something that I would say has been a big personal journey for me.
Yeah.
Because from the age of 23, 24, it's when you're getting married. I'm in my 30s now and I'm not married. And I remember this one auntie, I speak about it on my socials once, and this auntie came up to me and she was like, oh, are you Leah? And I was like, yeah, I'm Leah. And she was like, oh my God, are you the one that the founder of like Pop-Up Party and Play and Swam the Channel, and you're an author? And I was like, oh wow, like you follow me. Like I felt so blessed. I started blushing. She's like, but why aren't you married? And I was just like, and I literally was like, because I haven't found an English man, a man that's swam the English Channel. That's probably why. But yeah, it's amazing that they can still, whatever. There's a comment as well, whatever.
There's always a comment. There's always going to be someone's opinion. But then you also have to remember that that's their story and their life, and what possibly they think you should be doing versus what you really want to be doing. Like, if people ever come up to me and be like, mate, why are you still single? I'm like, yo, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not necessarily by choice, but I'm not going to just settle for anyone either. Like, I could be with someone. I could try and match someone on a dating app. I could go to a matchmaking event or whatever and really accelerate that process, but that's not me. I know the kind of person I am in a relationship and the kind of person I would like to be in a relationship with. If that's not coming, like, if we're not crossing paths just yet, it's not meant to be just yet. Maybe this is God's sign telling me that I need to continue doing what I'm doing right now, and it's going to happen on its own accord. I don't know, but it's a process. And the minute you start telling me that I'm doing something wrong by not getting married soon, is basically putting unnecessary pressure on the lifestyle I want to live. Just because you did that doesn't mean I have to.
Someone actually DM'd me the other day and was like, I can't believe that I'm single. I'm still single. Like, I've done everything. I've done this. I've written my vision board, like all this kind of stuff. And she listed out all the items that she had done. And I literally just replied to her and I said, what happens if your partner, your actual partner that's going to be in your life, the man that you're going to marry, the man that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, isn't ready for you yet? And she was like, oh. And I was like, yeah. Like, maybe he's got another about 6 months worth of work before he needs to show up in your life.
Yeah.
And So why are you forcing a process that's not ready for you?
Exactly. And I think half the time people don't realize that when they are trying to like force this process, that like if an aunt a couple of years ago, if someone ever tried to say to me, why you're not in a relationship, I possibly wouldn't have said it, but I could have turned around and said, I'm still healing.
Yeah.
You know, like I've realized a lot about myself. I'm not heartbroken, but I am learning to love myself right now. So how can I be with someone
Yes.
if I don't love myself? How can I be the best boyfriend, possible husband, if I am not in the best state of mind to be that? But if I'm going to constantly get grumpy, if I'm going to have mood swings, if I'm going to not listen to what this person is saying and always think that I'm right, do you want me to be with someone like that? Is that fair? Like, if you introduce me to someone right now and I'm not in the best frame of mind, is that fair on that person as well? Because she could be completely ready, and if I'm not ready, how is that
Yes,
fair?
love that.
And so, like, but those are things we don't say.
No, we don't. But why? That's what I want to know. Why are we not having this? Which is why I'm sitting here having this
Yeah.
conversation with you, because I'm like, why is no one allow it to be okay to say that? Because truthfully, you're then going to that individual to be like, make sure that tell me I look good.
Yeah.
Please tell me I look good. Don't I look good? Isn't my career amazing? Come on, and look, you're demanding so much of that individual that no one's going to be good enough, and you're going to break it apart.
Do you think? Oh, let me not say. Do you think? What do you think the fear is there? Why people can't just open up and say they're not in the
Vulnerability. They're not willing to look weak and be able to say to people, I am healing and I'm not perfect right now.
Why is that looked upon as weak?
Because you're not perfect. You're not this perfect. And then you're open to vulnerability, criticism. That individual may not get where you're coming from. There's fear around it, what people think of you. There's that human element of like fight and flight that all like jump in because it's like you wouldn't put yourself in a situation where you're knowingly going to harm yourself.
But don't you think majority of us would advise our children, our nieces and nephews not to, like, it's fine, be vulnerable. Let us know what you're going through, etc., etc. But we don't do that for ourselves.
Yeah.
It baffles me and it scares me to the degree that, like, what you said right now, we're fearful and being vulnerable what people are going to say. But at the same time, it's a case of, so what you're going to do instead right now is keep your mouth shut about the things you're going through and just pretend that everything is fine when it's not. So let's say hypothetically you meet the perfect man, you meet the perfect woman, but you're not ready. You then get self-sabotage. You get the perfect job opportunity turns up and you bottle the interview because you're just not confident enough. Or, to be honest, you really don't even like that career. What you want to do is set up a cake shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you want to do, you want to work in a nursery and just work with young kids.
Yeah.
Like, why is it a problem? Like, and like we fail to then take those steps to start being our authentic selves in certain environments. And it bugs me when I hear these stories and I'm just like, I'm not perfect. I'm not the best coach. I don't know if coaching is my ideal route in life. I don't know if podcasting is going to be my ideal route in life. But I know a purpose I have is to help try and push people in the direction to be their best selves. And I wish I had that in me when I was younger as well. Now I've got that now. Great.
But you're perfectly in the position you're supposed to be in right now, here and now.
I wouldn't even say it's perfectly.
Imperfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
Imperfectly imperfect. Yeah.
It's working and I can't complain with where I'm at. There are certain things that are missing in my life that I would love to have, but at the same time, if I had them, would I be able to put as much energy into this right now? Maybe not. I don't know. And that might be something I need to learn so that when that right person is there, I can balance everything and it all works out in a certain way. But at the same time, like, people just don't want to own the fact that they aren't okay.
This is why I talk what I do. This is literally what I do, because it's so shunned. It's so bad to talk about that you're going through something and that you're not coping. It's just not talked about.
I've always been quite fortunate. I've always had avenues where I can speak. And I actually had someone call me out and say, you know, you speak openly with everyone. And I've said, yeah, I'd hate to be in a position where I felt locked up in a room and I couldn't say anything. I'd hate to think what my mind went through if I felt I didn't have the opportunity to tell someone I'm struggling right now. You know, I don't like what I'm going through. I don't like X, Y, and Z in my life right now. And it's nuts. It's nuts to in regards to the weight that gets taken off your shoulders once you start letting go. I'll give you a good example. Earlier this year, there was a part of me where I just felt like really depressed and down, and I went out on a night out. It was totally fine, and I came back, and I came home, and I was just in bed, and I just started like crying for some reason. I don't know why. And I kept saying, like, I don't know whether it was the alcohol talking or not, but I just kept saying, I'm sorry. And I didn't know who I was apologizing to. I just felt like I was a letdown, hadn't reached my potential, don't know really what I want in life right now, and just felt like I was just letting loads of people down. And part of me realized that it was that lack of self-worth coming back in. And if I don't deal with that situation right now, like, I'm going to go back into this hole where it's not good for me. So a couple of days later, I went to go speak to my mum about it. And she was like, just wanted to let you know, don't ever want you to think that you're not good enough, etc. And just reassured me in a way where it was so uplifting that I didn't have to keep this in. I didn't have to not tell anyone else about like what I was going through. And like having that moment and working on myself, being able to speak to my dad, who's not really the most emotionally intelligent person, doesn't really hold that space, but can now hold that space. It's me being me and explaining what I'm going through, explaining the fact that work might be difficult, the relationships ain't going to plan, or business is struggling, etc., etc. It's interesting to see what your parents then do once you are open and honest, because I like to see it as parents in this example will hold space for you because they don't want to see you suffer. No one wants to really see you hurt, but you're so afraid to tell them that you're hurt. You don't give them a chance to actually hold that space for you as well, because you feel like they never will or they never have. And it's like, well, give it a go. Put yourself first and give it a go and see what happens.
I think in terms of, thank you so much for sharing, because that's a really like vulnerable
I don't care. I
place to be
tell
in.
everyone this shit. I don't care.
Like but it is like to even have that conversation and be like, oh look, I was home and I was crying and I'm saying I'm sorry. But like, I think to play devil's advocate, like when you're going through anxiety and depression, one thing you feel and you experience is that you're a burden. And that you don't know why you're sad, or you don't know why you're anxious, or you can't find the reason, and your life is beautiful and you do love your job and you do like the place that you're living and you know what you're going through, and you don't know why. And you feel like telling someone is a burden, and that because you go through so many ups and downs on your anxiety and depression's journey, that you're like, we're back here again, and I can't go back to that friend, I can't go back to that individual and be like, I'm here again. And that kind of like spit in your face or kind of thing, like it's like slap in your face to be like, you're going through this again. So every time you go to that slump, you're like, oh my god, I can't talk to anyone. So that's the kind of pattern that goes through your head, where you feel like you're so blessed and lucky that you have parents that will hold that space for you, and etc., etc. But like, there's also elements where people feel like they're a burden, or they feel that they can't do that. So they don't have the luxury. Maybe they don't have individuals, maybe they don't have friends, family that will be able to talk to them or can hold that space. Maybe their parents are, I don't know, like making ends meet, and all they're thinking about is that they're putting food to mouth, and they're looking for their next paycheck, and the luxury of talking about mental health isn't something that they can do in their household. So I think we're in a very blessed situation that you can do that, but there are people and individuals out there that can't, which is why I like.
But that's what you just said, they can't.
Yeah.
Have they tried? And what I tend to find is that people don't try.
Yeah.
They feel that they can't, and no one says you can or can't. Like if I know, like I know, like in my scenario, I was never able to open up to my mum and dad about things. I usually speak to my next door neighbour about it. And she was like my fairy godmother, and still will be. But it's a case of now I have the opportunity to speak to my mum, my dad, and my sister. Like that wasn't an option for me, but it then became an option. And when I started to realize I wasn't being judged by being myself, and when I start to look at it from the angle where people are like to me, oh, my dad's just very strict, he's just never gonna understand it. That's fine. As long as you understand he's never gonna understand it, that's totally okay. What you're now telling me is that the message you're throwing out isn't articulated in a way where he can start to sympathize and empathize with where you're coming from. You tell your dad right now, I just hate work, and he's worked hard his whole life. he's not going to understand it from that perspective. You explain to your dad how you're emotionally feeling when you sit in the office and how people laugh at you, or how you feel undervalued and how you're trying to do X, Y, and Z and things aren't working out. He might show an element of empathy right now to say, okay, what else is going on? Do you want to talk more about this? Is what I did. Maybe we can hold and you'll start to see a different reaction when you change the way you approach things. I always get it when people say to me, oh, they just don't understand, they never will understand. I'm like, you're saying things and you're repeating a cycle where things aren't just going to work out for you, and you already know that.
Yeah.
You're not trying to break that cycle and do something completely different. My mum, I used to say, love you, mum. Honestly, the biggest mouth out there would tell everyone my shit as soon as I opened up to her. So I used to stop until I made it very, very clear, Mom, I just need you not to share this information. This is me being very, very open and honest with you right now. Like, if you're not going to be able to do that, no, it's fine. I'm being serious now, Mom. Yeah. You realise that stays within the circle now. That's not going anywhere else because you've made it very, very clear.
Yeah.
And like in certain scenarios, I've had a number of clients talk to me about like bad parenting and how they can't be themselves, etc., etc. And I'm like, you're also choosing not to change the way you approach these situations. Try something different and then talk to me.
So what if you've tried something? So, for example, one of the individuals that I've spoken to, she's like, I've tried 7 different routes, 7 different ways, or 10 different ways, and this has been going on for 5 years, and I'm struggling with my mental health, and I don't have the width or that manpower to be battling that and battling my mental health.
Yep. I'd ask them why. Is that important to you?
But if we're saying that we need to go to someone.
No. So if you're telling me right now, like she's tried 10 times and it's not working out.
Yeah.
How important is it for you to actually speak to your mum and dad? And if they say to me, it's very important. Okay, cool. So 10 times isn't enough.
But then also you need to go to other routes. You need to go to other avenues. You need to go to other individuals that will support you.
Yeah.
But I think that's so scary when you've been rejected from the place that you've...
But once you understand that some people may just not get it,
Yeah.
you know it's not you're at fault. But you can still be yourself in that scenario, knowing that they won't understand it. Like my grandma would never understand, God bless her soul, she would never understand things to a certain degree because she was stuck in her ways. But you showed an element of emotion. You understood the fact that she may get it but may never get it, but you could still be yourself. Changed the game for me and my relationship with her. Like I told her off one time. I was like, look, stop talking to my mom like this. And I got really emotional when I said it to her. I said, you need to stop behaving this way. Yeah. She's like, I'm just joking. And I'm like, you're not though. You're upsetting people. And as grandparents, who get out of my house, don't ever come back again. And I came back the next day regardless. Like,
then she fed me.
She ignored me for a couple of days, but then was completely fine. But the way she then treated my mum on the back end of that was with a little bit more respect. And she understood that her son right now has stepped up to say, this isn't cool. Now, she obviously didn't realize what she was doing, thought it was funny, but until you get vulnerable and explain it in a way, that was one avenue. With my dad, I've had to say to him a number of times, please don't do what you did to me when I was a kid. The reason why I stopped playing cricket was because you put all this pressure on me. Let me enjoy the sport of golf. And there's a reason why now I'm still playing 4 years later into the game where I'm getting progressively better. We're getting very competitive, but it's all fun and banter. Whereas before, growing up playing cricket, if I wasn't as good as him or wasn't doing what he was doing at that age, I was shit. And like, until you have that conversation, you don't know what could happen. And I feel like some within our generation, traditions from all backgrounds and races make you feel like you possibly can't have that conversation. I'm like, no, what you can't do is do the same thing you've always done because that ain't getting you anywhere. You're going to get the same response. You're going to get someone just say to you, yeah, okay, cool. And that attitude isn't going to help you in your growth. Until you break that and try something different, you learn to forgive and let go of the fact that your parents aren't going to be the same. They ain't going to get you the way you want to be understood. Till you can truly accept that, you're never going to actually progress the way you want to progress. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
It's an interesting one. See how passionate I get about this kind of
stuff? I see.
Time has just flown by. Just putting it out there.
Oh, really? How long have we been doing this?
it's been flowing by.
I love it.
Nah, we'll continue on a little bit longer because no one's booked the room, so we're all good. I want to slightly digress in regards to like what it is you're doing. So we've got the swimming part out of the way, but you are an author, you are a speaker. I just want to give you the platform right now just to share to the audience in regards to what you do. And yeah, just dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I now speak on a full-time basis. So my kind of area of topics that I talk about is all about reclaiming your power. So everything we've spoken about today, pretty much like setting those boundaries, filling your cup up, everything to do with kind of mindset, resilience, imposter syndrome, and I talk about that from a particular point of view. So I kind of go in and I focus on young adults. So that starts from school. So I go into schools and do like talks there, workshops, building confidence, how to build your confidence, how to kind of reclaim your power in that sense. And then I go through to like university. I work with corporates and do like early career stuff. So interns, apprentices, grad, but I also do like learning and development generally for companies and just talk about everything that I've learned and the principles that I've developed in these areas.
Mad. She's living the dream, guys. She's living the dream.
I love what I do.
You know what? Yeah, what you've just said right there. You love what you do. Not many people can turn around and say they truly love what they do.
Yeah.
And like you're going down a number of different avenues right now, and you're enjoying every element of who you get to work with. Whereas some people right now are stuck behind a desk and they kind of enjoy what they do, but they're not getting that true passion from it. So, no, respect you for doing that.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I was doing the tax qualifications at EY, and then I still have my own business that carries on going in the background.
Sweet.
That I built and grew, and then I joined different tech startups where I very much was behind the desk, and I was passionate about that, the operational side of things, but I knew from about 25 I had this calling to help and serve. Like I've done a lot of it outside of my work. Like I think I worked out the other day that it was like £250,000 I've now raised for different charities, and I was like, why can I not just combine the two? Like why can't I? And truthfully, like I think part of me had a belief that was like, you can't serve and give and make money. Yeah. Like the two just don't cross over. But I'm going to smash that belief and be like, do you know what? I can have the life that I want to have and what I want to do in my life, but also serve and give, because that's all I want to do. Like every day, I just want to help. Because I think my biggest driver is that I've gone through things, and like I said before, like I felt like I didn't have sometimes people to go to or things to go to, and I just want to serve and help as much as I can.
That makes sense. No, it's mad. Well, where can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way is through my socials. So LinkedIn or Instagram, I'm probably the most active on. I'm also on like TikTok and Lemonade and all these things as well. But like Leah Chowdhury, you can DM me, email me. I've got my contact information on there. Like reach out, even if you just want to like, I do a lot of mentoring. I do one-to-one mentoring with people and help them get through these things, but also do like corporate side of stuff as well. So anything, even just reach out and tell me something that you enjoyed about the episode. I love interacting with people and like hearing from people. So yeah.
No, well, I think we definitely need to do a part 2 for sure. In the other room I was showing you.
Yes, absolutely.
Do it in there and literally just spend a lot longer time just dissecting this particular topic, because I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, big time.
And it'd be interesting to get your understanding around, or your perspective around other elements that go on within our society.
Yeah.
So if you're down for it.
Definitely. Do you know what? After this episode, we should get people to write in with their questions or their problems, and we should talk about them. So be like, I can't tell my like grandma this, or I've got this issue going on, and we could discuss it. We should do that.
I'll put that as one of the reels at the very end. All right. Okay. Cool.
Let's do it.
Get involved. Let us know. But now, thank you for coming through, and until next time.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely loved our conversation.
Gang. Thanks again for listening. It's been your boy Uncle Pre. It's always a pleasure to be in the studio and record with my guests. I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and if you like stuff like this, please do like, comment and subscribe. It helps me take the podcast to a place where I can definitely bring in more people that are going to resonate with you, whether it's their stories, whether it's their journey, whether it's just something that they're going through right now. So definitely like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And much appreciated you staying in here. I love everyone that comes through, and I love all the comments and feedback that I get, so keep that coming through. It's been your boy Uncle Pre, and I'm signing out. Peace.